Rain fell in silver streaks that evening, blurring the city lights into a dreamy haze. Inside a small, cozy cafe tucked between high rises, Lina nervously stirred her coffee. Her hands trembled slightly, not from the cold, but from the thought that this blind date might be another disaster. After years of failed relationships and heartbreaks, she had almost given up on love. But her best friend had convinced her, just one more try, Lina. Maybe this time it's different. When the cafe door opened, a gust of wind followed a man in a faded gray hoodie and worn-out jeans. He shook off the raindrops from his hair, looked around awkwardly, and then his eyes found her. He smiled, warm, unpretentious, genuine. "Lina," he asked softly, walking up to her table. She blinked, slightly startled. This wasn't what she expected. She had imagined someone polished, maybe a professional with a crisp suit and confidence that screamed success. Instead, Ethan looked ordinary. His sneakers were scuffed, and his hoodie had a faint tear near the sleeve. Still, there was something in his eyes, kindness mixed with quiet strength, that made her nod. "Yes, I'm Lina." They shook hands, and somehow, that simple touch eased her nerves. The first few minutes were awkward. Lina asked about his job, expecting the usual, "I work in finance," or, "I run a small business." "I do a few odd jobs here and there," Ethan said casually. "Sometimes delivery, sometimes mechanical work. Whatever keeps me going." Lina forced a polite smile, but disappointment pinched her heart. Another man who probably had no direction, she thought. But when Ethan began to speak about his dreams, how he wanted to open a community center for underprivileged kids, her judgment began to soften. He wasn't talking to impress her, he spoke with sincerity, his eyes glowing with purpose. They talked for hours, about life, failures, hope, and the loneliness of pretending to be okay in a world that demanded perfection. Lina found herself laughing, genuinely laughing, for the first time in months. When the cafe closed, Ethan insisted on walking her home under the rain, holding his thin jacket over her head to keep her dry. She couldn't help but think, maybe simple is better. Maybe kindness matters more than money. Days turned into weeks. They began seeing each other regularly, long walks in the park, cheap dinners, movies on old DVDs at Lina's tiny apartment. She'd never felt so comfortable around anyone before. He never tried to impress her, never made promises he couldn't keep. Instead, he listened, supported, and believed in her dreams. But the world wasn't kind to simplicity. One evening, Lina's ex-boyfriend, Marcus, spotted them at a local restaurant. Marcus was everything Ethan wasn't: rich, charming, arrogant. He looked Ethan up and down with a mocking smirk. "So this is your new guy?" Marcus sneered. "Wow, Lina, quite an upgrade, from champagne to instant noodles." Ethan just smiled calmly. "Nice to meet you," he said, extending his hand. Marcus ignored it, turning to Lina. "You deserve better than this. He can't even afford to buy you a decent dress." Lina's face burned with embarrassment, but Ethan gently took her hand. "Money doesn't define better, Marcus," he said quietly. "Character does." That night, Lina cried, not because of Marcus's words, but because a part of her feared he might be right. She had dreams of a stable life, and Ethan's uncertain future scared her. When Ethan walked her home, she hesitated before saying goodbye. "Ethan," she whispered, "I don't know if I can handle this kind of life forever. I care about you, but I'm scared." He looked at her for a long moment, then smiled sadly. "I understand, Lina. You deserve happiness. I just hope one day, you'll see that love isn't about what we have, but who we are." He walked away into the rain, leaving her heart aching. Weeks passed. Lina tried to move on, but everything reminded her of Ethan: the laughter, the warmth, the peace she'd felt. She realized she missed the way he listened, how he believed in her when no one else did. But she had no idea where he went. His phone number was disconnected. Then, one morning, as she walked to work, she saw something on the news that made her freeze. The headline read, "Mystery CEO of Orion Holdings revealed, Ethan Hayes steps forward." Lina gasped. The image on the screen was unmistakable. It was him. The man who wore old sneakers, who carried his world in kindness and humility, was actually the hidden CEO of one of the city's largest real estate companies. Her heart pounded as the anchor continued, explaining that Ethan had been testing a personal theory: he wanted to find someone who could love him without his money or title. Tears filled Lina's eyes. She remembered every word he'd said, every act of quiet generosity. He'd told her once, the richest people aren't those who have everything, but those who give without expecting anything back. She finally understood. 2 days later, Lina gathered all her courage and went to Orion Holdings headquarters. The marble floors and glass walls were intimidating, but she walked in anyway. The receptionist asked her name, and moments later, she was led into a private office. Ethan stood by the window, his suit sharp and elegant, his presence commanding. But when he turned around, his eyes still held that same softness she had fallen for. "I didn't come for the CEO," Lina said shakily. "I came for the man who walked me home in the rain." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Ethan smiled, the same warm, unpretentious smile that had first melted her heart. "You came back," he whispered. "I never should have left," she replied. "You taught me what love really means." He stepped forward and took her hands. "Then let's start again," he said. "No disguises, no doubts, just us." That Christmas, they returned to that same cafe where it all began, only this time, no disguises, no masks. Just two people who had found love through honesty, patience, and faith. Ethan later turned his dream into reality. The community center opened, named the Lina Foundation, dedicated to helping those who believed they were not enough. And as they stood hand in hand before the cheering crowd, Lina whispered, "You really were the hidden millionaire." Ethan smiled, his eyes glistening. "No, Lina, you were. You made me the richest man in the world."